two chats. It says, Robert, $100. Do you ever get discouraged when you see these judges and agencies abuse the average citizen and our system? Please give us a white pill. And then the other one is donated to Amos Miller as well. Sign up, people. Fight, fight, fight. So basically, the Democrat Party wants us to officially sanction up Okay. Read it. Be controversial. Marion Holtzman, first of all, thank you, because it is but for the, it's the good fortune of being able to donate to these things and support the ones publicly and not so publicly. But Robert, what was Marion's question? Hold on one second.
About the white pill?
The white pill. Can you give us a white pill?
Well, that's a good transition. So the other Amish person I was representing this past week was
Ruben King. Yeah, it's crazy. Everybody watching understands what's going on. Ruben King was charged with selling firearms. I shouldn't say firearms. I was going to say weapons. He was selling firearms without a license, even though he's a farmer, not doing it as his principal occupation, and selling firearms because you're allowed to sell private to private firearms. He had 150, give or take, whatever, taken through the ringer. And the white pill is he's not going to jail, unlike the white pill or the black pill that we started the show off with, the Canadian guy going to jail for running over a traffic pylon. Ruben King, tell us what happened.
So Ruben was tried and sentenced in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I mean, he was tried and then the sentencing was to be scheduled. I didn't represent him in that part of the proceeding. Basically his contention was he didn't realize he needed one. The jury concluded that he knew otherwise because of what the ATF had told him. To me, it was, if you understood the Amish culture, that was far from clear. And I thought the law was being misapplied. So he retained me for sentencing. The district court he was assigned to was, by the information I was given, known for punitive sentences, harsh sentences. The probation report that provides a sentencing guidelines report was requesting a sentence of around 4 to 5 years in federal prison of a 56-year-old Amish farmer, long married with 10 children. Large number of his community depends on him and his farm for employment, for food, for their way of life. I went up to his farm the night before. It's always tricky because the Amish don't use electricity. And so you're figuring it was a little icy, a little snowy out there. There's some dogs running around.
Robert, I got to ask, they don't use electricity, no street lights, no nothing.
Yeah, not really. And so they have their own methods of, gas powered things and some things like that. But it's always interesting. And then everything's, it's like, it's a step back in time. But a community of good people and good friends and good family. And met up there at his house, the old wooden table, and you sit on an old wooden seat, if you will. His wife was there, some of his family were there, and it was clear that the awareness that he might go to prison, that they would miss his presence, that they would have a severe economic hit, and that their community would be severely interrupted, and who knows what happens to him in prison. The Bureau of Prisons isn't known for defending, the Amish. It's very rare that they ever try to put an Amish person in a federal prison because it's very rare that they are accused of even accused of any kind of criminal conduct. And they'd already forfeited his life's collection of guns, about 600 or so. So one of his not only savings, but one of his great favored hobbies was gone. The most consequential was, and most people who I talked to said to expect a 4 to 5 year sentence. And we had spent, many months making advocacy to the probation office, advocacy to the court, and advocacy to the prosecutor. And credit here belongs in part to the prosecutor. That in my experience, 9 out of 10 prosecutors, 9 out of 10 government bureaucratic lawyers are not trustworthy people and are not very compassionate, considerate, or empathetic. At least half are honest to God sociopaths if they were properly diagnosed. They're people who enjoy their authority. They're people worse than that who enjoy inflicting pain on others. And this prosecutor was clearly from the get-go not one of those people. Was one of those old school types who just wants to put bad people behind bars. And that's why he was a prosecutor. And so you could tell early on that even though the government, higher ups might want 4 to 5 year prison sentence to terrify everybody. Look at what we did to an Amish farmer. Imagine what we'll do to you if you don't do what we tell you when it comes to defending yourself and engaging in other ways of trade of the means of so doing. Without our permission, approval, and authority and control. And I think higher ups did want a long prison sentence, but we spent time, with our motion work and paperwork and other things, trying to set the basis whereby, come sentencing hearing, maybe he would do something different than everybody expected. We made expansive arguments to the court, explained all the constitutional risk if this case were to go up on appeal, constitutional risk that might go away if there was no prison sentence. Explained all of the reasons why the guideline. We traced the entire history of the guidelines and how it all worked and how it was never meant to apply to people like Ruben and all the rest. And then I made oral argument there. Large part of the Amish community all came out. The courtroom was packed with members of the Amish, who many of whom were like his family on the way up, very tense, very. Something they never imagined possible. They're about to lose their dad, their grandfather, an essential person in their family, in their community, in their business, and maybe the medical care is terrible in the prison system. The people just look at what happened to Owen Schroyer as to what they can do to people that are perceived as outsiders. Add to that somebody who's Amish, and you can imagine the worst, most horrific outcomes. Someone's it's not just his liberty; his life may be at stake. In the case. So went up there in court. They found out some things on the way out, which were interesting, but on the way in, wasn't. And I always find these things nerve-wracking. There's times that, and also I had barely slept. Probably part of the reason why I'm in the hospital. That for about 72 hours, because I'd done the red eye, I'd done a deposition the day before, and I was prepping for this, and it's just nerve-wracking. I've never been able to disassociate from the concerns of my clients. There's an edge to being a clinical lawyer, like a doctor that doesn't really.
You don't internalize the stress and the suffering of your clients, and you're a sociopath. And if you're not a sociopath, you internalize it.
Correct. But it's a huge burden that it can be to bear, because some of the things that they don't even know about the scale and the severity of the risk that they face. And what that might look like. So made the best advocacy. The judge, had ruled against us on a whole bunch of procedural aspects in terms of the forfeiture, in terms of the trial, but also in terms of the sentencing guidelines. So it was set up to give a prison sentence, and even sounded like at the beginning that he was giving a 3-year prison sentence. And he asked the prosecutor. Goes, well, would you object if I did give probation to a probationary sentence? And the prosecutor was kind of trying to avoid saying something officially on the record, and to his conscientious credit, finally just said, no, I don't object, because down deep, he didn't want to see some Amish guy. That isn't why he signed up to be a federal prosecutor, put little Amish farmers in prison. So it took a while for him to say that on the record, because I'm sure there was a lot of other pressure on the guy to that's not being the official policy. But as soon as that happened, the judge started, was like, okay, maybe I have leeway here. Went back for a good time in behind chambers, talked to some other people, I think his clerks and some others. One of the clerks had paid a lot of attention to part of my oral argument about the Native American tradition that I've had, and how that informs a much better method of justice than what we've done in America, and seemed to connect to it. And so came back out and said straight probation, 3 years of probation, not no time in a federal prison, to the great relief of Ruben. I remember turning to Ruben after the judge went back in there, and I started to explain the process. And he said, Robert, it's just time to pray. And I appreciated that. And so that's what he and the community were doing during that time period. That were there in the courthouse. I mean, it was so they packed the courthouse so that there are a bunch of people that the Amish filled up the entire hallways. So they heard the announcement, massive relief. His wife had been very stressed the night before. She was very relieved that everybody was that this horrific event was not going to have this horrific outcome. And on the way out, apparently marshals were cheering for a probationary verdict. And there were some people there that were courthouse security marshals who watched the show. So that apparently that what the discussion on the show had got around to other aspects of the courthouse, whereas people saw Ruben, they saw the community around Ruben, they saw the advocacy that we talked about here. There was almost unanimous that in that courthouse, amongst everybody else that was part of the courthouse, that they wanted to see a good outcome for Ruben too. And so it's you don't often experience that. But so that was the someone whose life was at risk beyond their liberty, and a family and a community that could have suffered a very damaging loss didn't. And it's a reminder that no matter the obstacles, you just keep knocking on doors. That even if the justice system seems lost, just keep trying and trying and trying and trying, because you never know when you'll get through. That's why I loved my quote: "The greatest trick the devil ever pulled is convincing people he didn't exist. The greatest trick the system ever pulled is convincing you that you cannot resist." I mean, I'm saying be naive or idealist or anything else. I'm not saying that you don't realize you're an underdog in a lot of these cases, and you're going to not get the relief that you are entitled to most of the time, or a lot of the time. But I know that the only way the system wins is if we quit. So if you don't quit, there's always a chance. And Ruben King is, in fact, alive and free today in Lancaster County, not watching the show because they don't watch TV, but enjoying time with his family, thanks to that refusal to quit.
I know you see it as a white pill, Robert, and this might be my own pessimism showing, but the number of people who don't get that white pill because they don't have that infrastructure, and you got the one white pill of the sea of thousands of black pills. And it's amazing. I was in the vlog that I did. I was going to include a clip from Schindler's List, and I decided not to because I don't want to be accused of minimizing anything. But the expression "he who saves one life saves the world," and I'm not trying to like massage you, Robert. You saved a life, period. So,
right. Well, and that matters, and I think people have to remember that matters, because it will help animate you when you're in very difficult fights like the Amos Miller one. When it feels like all the odds are stacked against you, you don't stand a chance. Remember the time when David Stone hit Goliath's head, and maybe that will be this time. And you have to believe it to make it possible, because in the end, real human beings are impacted by those choices.
I just want to bring this up so I can read Marion Holtzman's latest. Karalevsky. Any chance the next administration actually massively reduces the federal bureaucracy? If the next administration is Trump, yes. If it's Biden, no. Marion Holtzman said there are over 12,000 people listening to this. If each of you just gave $1 or $2 to Give, Send, Go, Amos Miller would really help. I know things are tough, but please help. I'm going to bring you back in, Robert. Stop picking your nose. I'm joking.
Well, I mean, the whole Amish community came out, or huge part of it came out the next night. Got to meet many of them, describe to them what was happening, because they were baffled by everything. They're like, "Why is this happening to us?" They're good, nice, sweethearted people who always love to laugh and sing. Whose idea of a good, a great time is singing and playing volleyball. They're old America. They're the heart of old America. And as I told them, the heart of old America is under attack, and you just happen to symbolize it and be emblematic of it, and be giving people an exit ramp from the big tech, big pharma, big food controlled system in society. You're right. It's disturbing that people like Ruben King are ever being targeted by agencies like the ATF. But what it should also be a reminder of is we need to radically shrink the power of a lot of these agencies. Well, because we've seen what it looks like, and it ain't pretty.
And not to go toot Vivek Ramaswamy's horn since he's backed out of the presidency, but this is what he's talking about. He's having an influence on Trump, and yeah, it's more laws, less justice. Tullius Cicero. There's no better example of it than this crap right here. So it's nice.
And I think it's okay. I think Trump's people should look at Trump speaking out on Amos Miller's behalf. There might be some other presidential candidates doing it soon. So I think they saw the Amish as a whole, someone like Amos, as a easy lamb to sacrifice on the altar of statism. And but there's a whole bunch of us in between them and Amos, and that's going to be the key. Everybody holds the line. We can still preserve our freedoms in America.